good evening, and welcome to the Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York. This is Premier Boxing Champions live on Showtime YouTube. Brought to you by TGB Promotions, DeBella Entertainment, Corona, La Cerveza Más Fina, Casa Noble Tequila, The Noble Pursuit, and Showtime. This is the opening attraction of the evening, 6 rounds of boxing in the welterweight division. At ringside, the 3 judges scoring this bout will be Tom Carusone, Carlos Ortiz, and Joseph Pasquale. And in the ring, the man laying the law when the bell sounds, referee Paul Brown. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, he's wearing the colors of the flag of Mexico. He weighed in officially at 143 3/4 pounds. His professional record, 7 victories, 2 defeats, 2 of his victories coming by way of KO. Fighting out of Juarez, Mexico, presenting Cesar Valenzuela. And his opponent fighting out of the blue corner, he's wearing pink and white trim trunks. He weighed in officially at an even 142 pounds. His professional record, 5 victories, no defeats, 3 of his victories coming by way of KO. Fighting out of Brooklyn, New York, presenting Richardson Hitchins. Once again, referee Paul Brown for instructions.
All right, I gave you detailed instructions in the back. Obey my commands now. Good luck, gentlemen. Touch them up.
Referee in charge is Paul Brown. Richardson Hitchins, who's undefeated at 5-0, looking to take his record to 6-0 as he takes on Cesar Valenzuela. Showtime Championship Boxing Countdown here at Barclays Center. Ray Flores, Keith Thurman, Chris Maddox. And Richardson Hitchins, a 2016 Olympian for Haiti, decided to go and represent his parents' country because he fell short in the qualifiers here in the United States to Gary Antoine Russell, incidentally, the younger brother of Gary Russell Jr., the current WBC featherweight champion of the world.
Yeah, I got a chance to see Richardson Hitchins in Haiti, or not in Haiti, in Rio, actually, and a very good-looking prospect. Good speed, good power. He lost that fight to Russell, as you mentioned. He'd very much like to see Russell again in the professional ranks, but an extremely confident kid. I mean, he was asked this week who the best prospect is in boxing. Said it was him.
Well, that's a young man, Keith, that certainly believes in his talents. You can certainly attest to that.
Most definitely. I like how he's starting off with that hand speed that you said, working the jab. Being an Olympian, right now he's living the dream. I was at this stage once in my career. Boxing, you work your way from your bottom and you get to the top. Let's see how he does today.
Well, this is Richardson Hitchins' first time on television here, and he certainly has a lot of flair when it comes to his ring attire, the pink with the white, and he's hoping that his substance inside the ring will translate. But here's a young guy who has a good smile, good family background, and he just likes to mix it up. A nice right hand to the body, placing on Cesar Valenzuela, and a sweeping left hook as well.
The first punch he had to take in round 1.
Big left hook backing up Valenzuela. Valenzuela's lost 2 straight. And Hitchins is applying the pressure and picking up the intensity. A big left hook that staggered Valenzuela.
Yeah, Hitchinson's throwing some power shots in this one. Not looking to waste any time with Valenzuela.
Keith, what impresses me about Hitchins is it's not like he's loading up. Everything's coming off the jab, but he's getting confidence, and he's sitting down on his punches towards the tail end of this first round.
And he's also been mixing it up quite a bit, like that little left uppercut right there. He's been throwing punches from all angles from round 1. He's definitely a talented young man.
One of the things Hitchins said he was looking for in the early part of his career were opponents that were going to force him to fight a professional style. A lot of times, Keith, you know that these guys come out of the amateur ranks and they're still fighting like amateurs. You know, looks early on, 2 years into a young career, 6th pro fight, but I like his style. I like the way that he sort of fights that professional style already at this point.
He has a 60% knockout percentage on his resume, does Richardson Hitchins, and he's been dominating, hammering away on Cesar Valenzuela. And down he goes. It was a combination of punches. And that concludes round 1, but not before Richardson Hitchins, with a combination of punches, sends Valenzuela to the deck.
I'll give Valenzuela some credit. He's coming to fight. You know, he's probably going to get knocked out, but he's coming to fight.
Well, Valenzuela has lost 2 straight to unbeaten prospects, fighting another unbeaten prospect here in Richardson Hitchins, and let's take a look at the knockdown. It was like that left hook on the temple. It was a delayed reaction, it seemed like.
A little off balance as well, you know. I don't think he was too hurt from that, but the young man is definitely going to be getting confidence. I know early on in my career, I always loved an early knockdown.
But Hitchins he doesn't seem to get erratic. I've seen him several times. He doesn't overextend himself, Chris, to leave himself open to getting clipped by a random punch, so to speak, or a phantom punch, somewhere along those lines.
Now, look, it just shows a polish and a maturity that he clearly has at a very young age. That should bode well for him in the future. But he's got good power, and I like how he's going upstairs, downstairs, not wasting punches on just swinging wildly for those headshots.
Well, and what interesting about Hitchins is already he's fought here at Barclays Center many times. This young man, if he continues on this trajectory, could very well be a bona fide star in boxing. He's signed to Floyd Mayweather, who knows what it's like to be a superstar in combat sports. So Hitchins is hoping to follow that same formula and become a superstar down the line.
No better place than the Barclays.
Well, you know quite well, Keith. I mean, some big moments have occurred for you. Victories over our main event tonight. Danny Garcia and Sean Porter, both of them here at Barclays Center. Big right hand on the body, followed by a right hand upstairs that backs up Valenzuela.
You know, Valenzuela's doing his best to make it seem like these shots aren't hurting him, but you can see his knees wobble every time one of those lands.
Yeah, he's holding on, though.
Hitchins stalking Valenzuela. Left hook to the body that stymies the forward attack of Valenzuela.
Valenzuela hanging in there, though.
Well, he's being moved by those body shots. Left hook to the body by Richardson Hitchins. And again, look at this body work by the 20-year-old.
Nice combination.
Valenzuela is retreating now. He comes forward again. And something special about Barclays Center. This is the 30th boxing event here in the history of the Barclays Center, and also Premier Boxing Champions has made Barclays Center its official home here on the East Coast. 8 events happening next year, and this has certainly become a crown jewel when it comes to combat sports here on the East Coast, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, look, Madison Square Garden for a long time was the mecca of boxing. It was where all the big fights take place, and to give respect its due, there are still big fights at MSG, but the quality coupled with the quantity here at Barclays Center is going to make this, if it's not already, the #1 spot for boxing on the East Coast.
Big right hand that connected by Hitchins, and Hitchins is hoping, since it is so close to his home, to really become a bona fide star here at Barclays Center. There's certainly not a shortage of cards here in Brooklyn. And Keith, can you tell us about the fan base, the rabid fan base here in Brooklyn at Barclays Center?
Man, I'll tell you, there's not a better city for boxing but New York City. You know, Vegas is an amazing platform, really flashy lights, and you can live the life out there. Everybody enjoys going out to Vegas and having a good time. But the history here in New York and the way that I get love and respect from the fight fans out here, there's nothing like a New Yorker fight fan. They are truly diehard fans.
And look, being in New York, it increases the profile of the fight, increases the profile of the fighter, the media coverage. There is no place in the world that has more media coverage than in New York. So there are a lot of benefits to fighting here. And one thing about the Barclays Center, what they've done is that they've been willing to put up the money needed to bring these big fights here. That's oftentimes why Vegas gets those big fights. They'll pay big site fees. They'll write big checks. But, Brett Yormark, the Barclays Center, they've done a terrific job at opening up the checkbook and making this a destination for big fights.
Well, that's why our two main event combatants, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter. Don't forget Showtime Championship Boxing. Go to getshowtime.com if you don't have Showtime already. Have fought here many times. Danny Garcia, this is his 7th bout here at Barclays Center. He's 5-1. Sean Porter, this is his 5th fight here at Barclays Center. He is 3-1. Both of those blemishes to Keith Thurman. And as Frank Sinatra used to say, gentlemen, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And I think the same formula applies to fighters, especially wanting to fight here on the big stage.
Yeah, even guys that aren't from here. Keith's from Florida, but Keith has made and will continue to make the Barclays Center a home for you. And that you kind of came up with it at times, Keith, when you were fighting on other networks and working for other promoters. But too often, guys didn't establish a home base. They were just going to backwater casinos or any sort of far-flung locations. I think it's imperative for the growth of a fighter, of their profile, to have a base where fans can come and see them once, twice, maybe 3 times per year.
Yeah, it makes a difference, to build up that fan base, to get the following. I mean, when I'm walking around here, people always tell me, we love coming out to your fights, champ. Can't wait to see you back in the ring. And it's just a very humbling experience when you hear the fans talk to you like that.
All right, you see him. It's like walking with a beetle around here. I mean,
no kidding.
Everybody wants to take a picture.
Yeah, we can't go anywhere without Keith Thurman getting a photo or an autograph. And Richardson Hitchins is hoping to one day have that kind of career that you have had, Keith, thus far. And so far, he is looking very impressive, hammering away upon Cesar Valenzuela as we approach 90 seconds here in round 3.
Valenzuela is doing what he's kind of supposed to do in a situation like this, right? I mean, he's there to give this young prospect rounds and make him work. And he's making him work in this fight. He's not backing off. He's still throwing punches. He's absorbing some big shots. But he's keeping that pressure on and keeping those punches going against Hitchins.
Keith, when you're fighting guys like this, big left hook that backed up Valenzuela, straight right hand down the center that caught the left side of the temple of Valenzuela. And Valenzuela, his hands are dropping more, and he's leaving himself more susceptible to big shots from Richardson Hitchins.
More body shots, too. More body shots. In the second round, Richards really was committed to those body shots. And we're going to see if Venezuela can stay for all 6 rounds. I mean, he's been on his back foot most of this fight. And like you said, he's starting to slowly take a few more big punches.
And you can see in Valenzuela, those body shots, they're affecting how he's fighting, right? He's dropping those arms, try to give at least him a little bit of defense in that area. That's going to open up those headshots for Hitchins.
Well, and we're starting to see here in this 3rd round that Valenzuela, the punches that he throws don't have much substance behind them. And I wonder, that'll probably continue and his work rate will lessen as we approach the 4th round. Richardson Hitchins in complete control. First 3 rounds are in the books here at Barclays Center. It's Showtime Championship Boxing Countdown. As you see, we're just over an hour and a half until we go live with Showtime Championship Boxing. GetShowtime.com is how you start your free trial. A triple header on tap here tonight. Danny Garcia, Sean Porter battling for the vacant WBC Welterweight Championship of the World. And here's some of the action from round 3.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, but it always seems like whenever a fighter waves you in like that and says keep throwing, it means he felt what you threw.
Yeah, I mean, he also wants to just prove to you how tough he is, that he can keep whatever you're throwing at him, he can handle it, he can endure it, and he has so far. Little head movement that he's been using in the fight has also kept him away from taking those big shots that have been thrown by Richardson.
Round 4, this one is scheduled for 6. And Richardson Hitchins is a prospect, but coming up in our co-main event tonight, your Dennis Ugas and Cesar Valenzuela will collide in an eliminator fight. So the winner of that fight in our co-main event will become the mandatory to the winner of Danny Garcia, Sean Porter. Again, that is all contingent upon Keith Thurman coming back because you voluntarily gave up the title. So theoretically, once you are ready, then I believe you have the first, I would have to say first dibs, quote unquote, on the winner of this fight between Porter and Garcia.
That is true. Both fighters, after taking the loss, they were a little upset, and they both wanted the rematch. And at the end of the day, there's no better way than putting these fighters together and literally seeing who the best is. And then they obviously deserve that rematch. And obviously, I did vacate the belt while I was on the shelf, but I too want that belt back. And I look forward to getting back in the ring soon.
What'd they make you? Champion in recess? Champion emeritus?
Champion emeritus.
Champion
emeritus. That's right.
Champion emeritus.
I can't. I've been covering the sport for 15 years. I can't keep track of all these titles.
Well, we have been able to keep track of Richardson Hitchins' dominance over Cesar Valenzuela, as it is pretty much a carbon copy of what has transpired from the first round on. Hitchins still using his jab and then unloading body punches and then mixing it up with some shots upstairs to the chin of Valenzuela. But Chris, Valenzuela is a tough customer.
He's a tough guy. And look, that's what you look for in fights like this. You've got a 5-0 fighter climbing his way up the ranks a couple years into his pro career. You want somebody to give you rounds. You want somebody to challenge you, make you do different things in the ring. Of course, you don't want to put him in against a really tough test. I'm sure Mayweather Promotions, that wasn't the goal at this stage, but this is probably everything that they were looking for.
And Keith,
and that's a real, like you just said, this is the perfect fight for a young man in his situation right now. He's using his speed, but the veteran here, he's showing that he can hang, and he's putting leather on him from time to time. So he's really making him fight. But he's not in a dangerous situation. He's not in with a big power puncher today. This is a good little stepping stone for him in his career.
When do you know, if you're an amateur and you turn pro, when do you know if you have real pro power? I mean, the guy we're going to see coming up in this next fight, Chris Colbert, he said something recently about, when I get my man strength, I'm going to start knocking guys out. When do you know if you're going to be a power puncher?
Oh, I don't know if I can agree with that statement. I knocked out my first grown man at 14 years old. So, and then they were telling me that I would be even more devastating when I got my man strength. And surprisingly enough, I just became a better boxer. So I think power is natural. I think there's a little bit to be gained, maybe with working with certain trainers that might help you sit down on your punch. Some fighters, they don't fully sit down. They're too much on their toes. But at the end of the day, speed is not taught, and power as well. They're just innate.
It's a great point about the trainer, too. The great example is Manny Pacquiao. When he came to Freddie Roach, he was kind of a whirling dervish out there. Still, but he had the speed, he had all the skills, and Freddie helped him kind of put it together and become that concussive puncher.
And also, for myself, my original trainer, Ben Getty, which I wear his names on my trunks every time I fight, because Keith Thurman is not a world champion without my original coach, the man that believed in me before I believed in me. So sometimes you need a trainer to have more confidence in you than you have in yourself.
When getting to trainers, guys, in our main event tonight on Showtime Championship Boxing, you have two guys who are trained by their fathers, Angel Garcia and Ken Porter. Various and different styles in terms of how they train, but they have both been together with their father since its inception. They both have led their sons to world titles.
I find the dynamic with that, they're not the first and they won't be the last, but I don't know how you go through everyday life with your father as your trainer. I just don't. How do you separate church and state? Where you're at Thanksgiving dinner and you're eating too much and you got to fight in 6 weeks. What does Dad say? It's always been a little strange to me. Plus, you're training your son you don't even want to call boxing a sport. You don't play boxing. You're training his son in a brutal, savage game.
When right now Richardson Hitchins is a savage with a big right hand, smacking right off the head, and now he's really picking up the attack. A left hook, and Valenzuela is going backwards. My goodness, has he been lit up with big shots? There's a right cross. Paul Brown watching the action. Valenzuela is getting tattooed with a plethora of punches.
If you're Valenzuela's corner, you have to look long and hard at this to see if you wanted to take any more of a beating like this.
Keith, in my opinion, what is the point of this guy who's 7-2, lost 2 straight, for him to continue to absorb this kind of assault?
I mean, fighters are fighters. You know, he knew what he was getting into when he signed that contract. He knew he was coming up against another young prospect. And, you know, I mean, he just took that 1-minute onslaught. I thought Richardson was coming in trying to close it out, but this is what you get, and this is a good learning experience. There's people, you know that you're more talented, you know you're more skilled, you feel like you can get them out, but you don't know how tough they are until you put them to the test, and he's still standing.
80 seconds to go here in the 5th round. Cesar Valenzuela has been really getting clobbered with heavy punches from the 20-year-old in Richardson Hitchins.
Richardson breathing out of his mouth. You can tell that he's looking for those big punches. He would love to have a knockout in the 5th if he could get it.
What do you think he's learning in a fight like this?
Like I stated previously, learning that sometimes these guys can take your punches. And now, after trying to throw those knockout blows, he's slowed down right now. Now he's only throwing one punch. You know, he's obviously already done enough to win the round. But if this was a 12-round fight, you know, it might be a little bit more challenging, you know. So deep down, this might be a kind of fight that's going his way, but his coaches might be able to point out, and himself too, just knowing that I put in that energy, I put in that effort, I didn't get the stoppage, and if I was in with a more skilled fighter, maybe he would have been able to have a comeback. We've seen it in the sport of boxing before.
Tail end of round 5, as we have one more round remaining. Showtime Championship Boxing Countdown here at Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Our main event tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 Pacific time. Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, as 5 rounds are in the books.
You know, we were talking about the welterweight division. Obviously, Keith, a huge player in it. We'll see 2 fighters tonight. Amir Khan back in the mix as well. He won his fight earlier today. But I got to say, watching that fight, Khan got a knockdown from Samuel Vargas, took a knockdown there. There are going to be a lot of people chomping at the bit to get a piece of Amir Khan.
Honestly, I like the loser of the main event tonight against Amir Khan. It's not a bad matchup. You know, we've never seen Porter Khan, and I'm pretty sure that Khan would like a rematch against Danny Garcia. And obviously, Danny Garcia would probably feel confident. But at the end of the day, Amir Khan trying to get back at 147, I'm interested in seeing who he fights next.
Are you one of the... I mean, look, you want the big fights, the big paydays that come with them. Pacquiao's kind of out there. Do you talk to your team to try to figure out if they know where Pacquiao is, what he wants, if you can get that fight?
I mean, you know, our main concern right now is our health and just getting back in the ring. Once when I'm back in the ring, I'm looking forward to anything that's out there on the table. And yes, it does seem like Manny Pacquiao might be out there. I haven't heard any real details, but if I ever do, you best believe that I'd be willing to negotiate.
And Keith, though, you have been out of the ring for over 500 days. And as we see Richardson Hitchins in complete control against Cesar Valenzuela, Mikey Garcia had a break away from the ring for 2.5 years because of promotional issues. But since you've been boxing since the age of 7. You mentioned this with Brendan Schaub on Showtime Championship Boxing on our social media platforms. But do you think that this break that you have had for 500 days is it helping you reignite your love for the sport of boxing, allowing your body to heal, relax, and get back as to say, okay, I'm finally healthy?
There are pros and cons to it. At the end of the day, I'm still young. I got several more years in the sport of boxing, so we like to look at the bright side, and I am a little bit more hungry. I always say before the fight, I feel like a caged animal, but not being able to fight really makes me feel like a caged animal, and I look forward to stepping outside and getting back into the ring.
Well, Chris, it's almost like time away from anything or anybody does the heart good because you realize how much you appreciate the sport or that person.
Absolutely, and it's necessary. I mean, guys like Keith, guys like Danny Garcia took an 11-month layoff after his loss to Keith. You need that break. I mean, you guys have been doing it in a brutal sport with brutal training camps that most people don't see on a regular basis. That's where all that damage gets done, in those training camps. you need to give yourself a break. I asked you earlier about the passion and the fire because I have seen fighters that have come back from layoffs or have done things in their personal life, and it sapped some of that. Nonito Donaire is a good example of that, where he had his wife, he had a kid, and he never really was the same fighter after that. He's admitted that it changed his perspective there. So you can see a lot of different things when guys come back.
Boxing is such a unique, very personal kind of sport. But for me, I still have dreams. I still have some things that I want to accomplish in the welterweight division, and that's what keeps me going. Is yes, I became a two-time champion. I have made my mark into the history books of the welterweight division already by defeating Danny Garcia as an undefeated welterweight champion at the time. But that is still not enough for me, and that's what gets me going and why I look forward to stepping back into this ring, is because there is more that I want to accomplish.
One thing about Keith Thurman, never been afraid to risk his own.
No.
Never been afraid to do it.
Never, never, never. And I would have to say, as this fight concludes, Richardson Hitchins one day down the line would love to have even half of the accomplishments that you have had, Keith, but he looked impressive here tonight, pretty much complete and utter dominance from round 1 through the 6th.
Yeah, he was very good. And look, he went the distance, and you could see there the fatigue that's on his face, how his body is reacting in the moment. I mean, he was tested in the only way he could be tested there.
That comes for trying to get that knockout, like I said earlier, So it's a good little fight for him to know that there are fighters out there that you will push yourself and you will push them, but they will stay toe-to-toe with you, even though he was never really threatened in the fight. But that comes for another day.
And it's fun to have, look, he's not going to fight Gary Antoine Russell anytime soon. He knows that. Gary knows that. But it's just like with Shakur Stevenson and Michael Collins. It's fun to have that rival out there from the amateur days where you can say, look, if we both keep winning down the line, we can make some money in a professional fight a couple of years from now.
Well, even though they were in separate weight classes, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, they saw each other on the amateur circuit. And who would have thought Sean Porter fought at 165 in the amateurs? Who would have thought that he'd come down to 147? So we will see. That's our main event. Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Showtime Championship Boxing. Go to getshowtime.com to start your free trial. And tonight, it was Richardson Hitchins who passed the test over Cesar Valenzuela. He's going to turn 21 years of age on September 26th. And now we await, and we'll send it up to ring announcer Ralph Velez, who has the decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 6 rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards. Judge Tom Carusone, 60-53. Carlos Ortiz, 60-53. And Joe Pasquale, 60-52. All for your winner by unanimous decision. From Brooklyn, New York, Richardson Hitchins.
Total domination by the 20-year-old from Brooklyn of Haitian descent. The 2016 Olympian Richardson Hitchins remains undefeated as we join you once again here at our broadcast position here at Barclays Center here in Brooklyn, getting ready for Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 Pacific time on Showtime. But you're watching Showtime Championship Boxing Countdown. 2 more bouts remaining here on the preliminary portion. Up next, Chris Colbert, the young man known as Little B-Hop, will take on the veteran Infantio Faustino. But first of all, Chris, what's your observation